Hello, I'm Jeannie Howard, and today on Meet the Expert, we meet the wonderful Jo Tocher, who is going to talk to us all about miscarriage, dealing with grief, and transitioning into having another pregnancy.
I feel you, I want you, I know your touch is all I need. I'm waiting, you're shining,
Hello and welcome to Meet the Expert. I am Jeannie Howard, and today we bring to you on Meet the Expert Jo Tocher. Now, every Friday we have amazing transformational leaders in the area of health and wellness and well-being, bringing you their stories of transformation, the modalities, tips and tools that they use in their life to transform both themselves and other people. And just lots of yummy goodness. So I'm really, really pleased to be here today with the amazing Jo Tocher, who is a very good friend of mine, and I just love her immensely. Now, Jo has been a holistic therapist for well over a decade now and has a wealth of tools, tips, modalities and qualifications under her belt. She's so amazing, including aromatherapy, with multiple therapies, including aromatherapy in pregnancy, Indian head massage, Reiki, hypnotherapy, well-being coaching, mindfulness and meditation, Vitali Chi, and the wonderful energy alignment method. Now, Jo has appeared on different radio stations. She's been quoted in the Huffington Post, as well as the Daily Express, and has written for many different online platforms, including psychologies.co.uk. So I'm so excited to have Jo here and for you guys to meet Jo and listen to her wealth of expertise that she has to offer. Now, Jo's website is www.life-after-miscarriage.com, and you can also find Jo on Facebook under Miscarriage and Pregnancy Loss. So Jo, welcome, Jo Tocher. I'm so excited to have you here. How are you doing this morning?
Thank you, Jeannie. It's lovely to be here. I'm very excited to be on your show. It's really
thank you.
Stuff.
So, Jo, you have such a wealth of expertise and knowledge and stuff behind you. So I'm really interested to know, like, how did you become on this path of amazingness?
Well, I would say I had a very, very big kick up the backside from the universe. And that got me onto my path of wellness, because before that I was working in the corporate industry. Actually started off working in travel, which I loved. I was able to do a lot of travel, and I still love travel. It's part of my kind of free spirit. But after a while I decided I better get sensible, go back to the UK and settle down and get a job, a 9-to-5er. So I did that, and I worked in a corporate company in the City of London, which was great fun. I was organising their business travel, their conferences, their exhibitions, really on the marketing side and getting them forward and their presence known out in the world. So loved that job. It was absolutely perfect for me. And I was there for 5 years. Great team of people to work with, lots and lots of fun. And we worked hard, we played hard. It was great. However, I one day became pregnant unexpectedly. We weren't planning. I was with my boyfriend, who is now my husband, but we weren't planning on, we kind of hadn't looked that far or talked about that far ahead of having children and possibly getting married. So anyway, I found that I was pregnant. It was a great shock to us all. But eventually we got our heads around it, and we decided we were excited and happy to go ahead with the baby and become parents. So the 12-week scan time came, and that all went well. And then we were excited. We told people our families. None of our families lived in the UK, actually. Mine live in New Zealand, and his family is all in Tunisia. So we didn't have any family in the UK. But we told our families, and they were a little bit shocked because, you know, having a child out of wedlock isn't.
Yeah.
And they were both sets of parents being quite conservative. But anyway, they got their heads around it and they were pleased for us eventually. And also we told work, and that everybody at work was very excited. So, you know, we're in a great place. And then came to the time when I went off for my 20-week scan. Now, I said to my boyfriend, look, it's going to be in and out. He was busy doing something. I said, I'll just go on my own. So I went there, sat down, lay down on the table, and the stenographer came along and put the cold jelly on my tummy and had a good look around. And then she was there for ages with that, you know, that stenographer machine that they use, the scanning device. And she turned the monitor away, and I was thinking, oh, gosh, what's going on? You know how in your heart of hearts you know something's wrong?
Yeah.
You can just feel it.
Yeah.
And she said, hang on a minute, I'll be back. And I said, is everything okay? And she said, I'll be back. I'm just going to get a second opinion. So I lay there in this room on my own thinking, what is going on? I'm feeling really sick and worried and anxious. And eventually she came back with someone, and they had a look, and there was a lot of talking between each other. And I said, look, please, can someone tell me what's going on? Obviously it's not right. Otherwise, you wouldn't be talking amongst yourselves quietly. And they said, well, we can see that it looks like there's a deformity and that there's too much water in the baby's tummy and not enough in the amniotic sac. It's not a good prognosis. So they basically told me I had to come back the following day to see the consultant. So I went home, phoned my husband and said, oh gosh, you know, this is really bad news, but we need to go back in tomorrow. So we went in the next day, and the consultant said, basically, we've got two choices. We have to either terminate or let nature take its course. But she said, whatever outcome you get, it won't be the desired outcome, because if this baby does go to term, it's going to be severely handicapped physically and mentally. And but she said, I very much doubt that the baby will go to term at the way it's going at the moment. So by this point, it was over the 20-week mark. We're actually at about 23 weeks. So we went home for the weekend. They sent us home, said, come back on Monday and we'll do another scan and you can give us your verdict then. So we thought about it over the weekend, and I was very much of the thought that, you know, whatever happened is going to happen for the right reason. And I didn't want to have to make that decision. But as it happened, nature took its course. The baby actually died over the weekend, and I kind of knew it had, I could feel it. And we went in on the Monday, and we were told, yeah, unfortunately, your baby boy has died. So as you can imagine, that was a huge shock, and we were absolutely devastated. We had to go back in the following week to have the termination, and again, that was at about 24 weeks. So had the termination, and then I was in the hospital for a night and then went home. And when I was at home, it was absolute, I was all over the place. I didn't, you know, I wanted to cry, I didn't want to cry, I didn't want to show my husband how upset I was. I wanted to beat the bed and scream and
Yeah.
punch the floor, you know, it was kick the floor. It was just a horrible situation, but you have to sort of keep yourself together, really, don't you? There wasn't much support. My GP did phone, which was lovely, and asked me how I was. In the end, I decided that I wanted to do something, so I scrubbed the kitchen floor to keep myself busy, which in hindsight was a crazy thing to do, because the next day I felt really ill, and the doctor said, come on down. Went down, and she said, I'm going to send you off back to A&E because seems like you've got an infection, because I was shaking and hot. And sure enough, I had an infection. So I went back into hospital for another week. And it was actually, in hindsight, not that I wanted to go back to hospital, but it was actually really nice. They put me in a side room on my own. And I was able to heal. And I had people around me, and friends came to visit. And it was actually a good thing that that happened. So when I did come home, I was far more ready to sort of cope with the world. I did my best to try and get through it as you do. And I was very aware of my husband not really knowing what to say or how to behave and what to do. And his way of helping me was just to sort of buy in all my favorite foods, which was really sweet. But he just didn't know how to be and what to say. And obviously he was grieving too, but I didn't really pick that up at the time because I was so immersed in my grief and sorrow and sadness. I didn't pick up what he was going through. So that's an interesting thing for women who are having miscarriages. We get so involved in our stuff that we often forget that the husband, the partner, is going through a grief as well.
Yes, that's so true. That's so true. Oh wow, Jo, I'm so sorry to hear all of that. I know how heartbreaking it is going through miscarriage. I lost my own baby at 26 weeks. But do you find there is much more support now? Because we were going back quite a while, quite a long time ago since you had your miscarriage, and it's been 15 since I had my miscarriage, and the support there was absolutely ridiculous. The support that I was basically given a pat on the back and told, thank yourself, lucky. There's another lady who's just had her 7th or 8th miscarriage, which for me at that time, I didn't care because it didn't help with the grief that I was going through. But now working in your sector and working with a lot of women that are going through miscarriage, do you find that the support network for women going through that has, improved?
It hasn't. Sadly, it hasn't. They're so busy, and in the UK, they're so underfunded that they don't have the resources to provide. I mean, I was offered counselling, but that was only because I was back in hospital again after having this infection, and I was offered counselling, and the woman came around and she was pretty ineffectual, to be honest, and it didn't help at all. It was just a quick chat. But the chaplain, the hospital chaplain, came as well, and he was really helpful because he said to me, we're multi-dominational or interdominational chapel here in the hospital, and we quite often help people by having a little funeral for your baby. And I hadn't considered that, and I thought, oh gosh, I don't think I could cope with that. That sounds a bit morbid. But he said, honestly, I would really advise you to do it. Please bring your partner along and come and have a talk. And so we did. Before we left the hospital, we went down and we saw him, and we saw the little chapel, and it was absolutely beautiful, and it was peaceful, and it was lovely. And we just sat in there, and my husband is Muslim, so and I'm of Christian, brought up as a Christian, so it was interdominational. So we didn't. It was just the service that we wanted to have, and I was able to write a poem and do a little reading, and he just asked us how we wanted it, and it was beautiful, very sad, but it was a really good thing. And I would really, really stress to anybody who has had a miscarriage, no matter what time, if they were an early miscarriage, late miscarriage, is to have a little ceremony, and if you can do it through a chapel, that's nice. If you can't, do it at home. Make your own ceremony. Light a candle, burn some incense. Just have a nice sacred little space. Write a poem, reading. Just mark the end. And it does help. And I think you can ask now if you can take home your babies. If you've had a D&C, you can take home the baby. So you can do a little burial, or you can have it cremated and have some ashes. And I think that's really something, and I would encourage women to do, because it helps to close the chapter. Some people that I've worked with haven't been able to do that straight away, but they have done it when it's come up to a year's anniversary, because obviously it brings up all the emotions again if you haven't been dealt with. So I've said to them I've encouraged them to go and have their own little ceremony, and they've come back and said, yes, that really helped. I'm really pleased that I did that.
Oh,
but
lovely.
getting back to your original question, Jeannie, about has it changed? No. People are just have the D&C or whatever they have, they leave the hospital, or they go home to miscarriage in a natural way, and that's it.
Wow.
Hello and welcome to the Pure Transformation University members area.
You can put some joy up on my face, pour sunshine in an empty place. Take me to turn 2, and babe, I'll make you stay. I can ease you of your pain, feel you give me love again. Round and round we go, each time I hear you say, this is the rhythm of the night, oh yeah. This is the rhythm of the night, oh yeah. This is the rhythm of the night, oh yeah. This is the rhythm of the night, oh yeah. This is the rhythm of the night. This is the rhythm of my life, oh yeah. The rhythm of my life. Won't you teach me how to love and learn? There'll be nothing left for me to yearn. Think of me in turn and let me hold your hand. I don't wanna face whirling tears. Just think again, I'm on my knees. Sing that song to me, no reason to repent. This is the rhythm of the night, oh yeah.
If you want to get yourself in front of our audience, then this could be your ad right here, right now. You will be able to get your message out to thousands of people within our marketplace. And if you don't have a video ad, we'll help you produce that too. It can be hard in this industry getting your message out to the right people in a place where they're going to have the time and space to listen to what you have to say. But this platform gives you the opportunity to do just that. So what are you waiting for? Let's get started right now. Email martin@everychance.net or contact us via one of our social profiles, and we'll get back to you right away with a way that you can get in front of thousands of people in this space, and we'll put our production team behind your next success.
It's so sad. It's so sad. Like I know after my own experience, I had post-traumatic stress for nearly 12 years, where I was reliving, I would just suddenly relive the sensations and the sounds in the hospital and all sorts. And that's how I became into therapy work, was to heal my own trauma from that. Now, do you come across a lot of women who, are suffering with post-traumatic stress? Because I don't think a lot of women realise that this is something that can impact them for quite a long time. Do you have any advice for women that are going through that?
Yes, I have advice. If things are coming up for them, they really need to be dealt with. I would say a lot of people just think, oh, I've got to get on with this. I've got to get on, and I sweep it under the carpet and don't talk about it. So the first bit of advice I always say to people, you must talk about it. If you can't talk about it to your friends, because sometimes that is difficult, because friends, they're there for you in the beginning, some, and I've come across women whose friends haven't been there for them in the beginning at all, and have really hurt about that. So that can happen because the friend doesn't know how to be around them more, and because you've gone through this huge change. So talk about it, and if you get to the point where you think your friends are sick of you banging on about it or talking, find a support group. There are so many out there on the Facebook support groups. I run one myself, Miscarriage and Pregnancy Loss Support, and people in there can just talk about it. There's the Miscarriage Association. In the UK, there's Tommy and the Sands. So there are places that they can go to get help. However, if you're not getting the help that you're needing via counselling or therapy work, do think about having some different type of therapy work. I mean, for me, when my first foray into healing or type of healing work was after I had left my corporate job. I sort of forgot to tell you this, but when I went after my miscarriage, I tried to go back to work and it didn't work. It was, I was a different person. I'd changed, and I just felt, what's this all about now? What is life about? What's the meaning of this job?
Yeah.
It felt so unmeaningful. I was working for somebody else and I wasn't doing what felt important to me anymore. And that's what I was searching for, something to help me recover and to make me feel better. So that's how I fell into therapy work. That was as I said to you, I had an enormous kick up the backside from the universe. I in fact came across aromatherapy. In fact, I read about it in a magazine, and this article was really interesting because it was about a woman who had gone through a similar thing to me, had worked in corporate, gone back, and had really not felt it anymore and wanted to change her life. And she came across aromatherapy massage. And at the bottom of this article, there was a piece saying, you know, we're doing a taster weekend, come along and try it, see if you like it. Best thing I've ever done. I went along there and absolutely loved it. And when I was reading that magazine, the hairs were standing up in the back of my neck and I was getting goosebumps, and I thought, oh, this is exciting. It was the first time I felt excited for a long time.
Wow.
So that's how I got into aromatherapy, and I trained at the Tisserand Institute, which was very famous back in the day in the 80s and 90s. So that's where I trained to do my diploma in aromatherapy. And on that course, I came across the healing module, which was energy work. And I'd never come across energy. I hadn't understood it or knew what it was about. So that was my first foray into energy work. And I met this amazing healer, a guy called Michael Hartzell, and he's still healing now, but he helped me. He gave me healing. He helped me get through the trauma, and I was able to release a lot from my body, from my energy field, from my emotions. And that was the one thing that I would say that helped me through, as well as me being work and train in the field so that I could then help people. And there's a study that's out there. I don't know if some people have come across the book by Viktor Frankl when he was in concentration camp in Auschwitz. And he wrote a book and a study. Those who have had a trauma and the ones who recovered quickest and best from that trauma are those who found meaning from it. So, you know, for me, it was finding meaning through helping other people. So whatever that meaning is to anybody, you know, whether that's going to do volunteer work for a charity or run a race to raise money for a charity. A lot of people do that and find that meaningful and helpful. Whatever that is for a person, it's just to find something that gives you meaning for that trauma to happen. For that trauma, that recovery from that. And I think that's key. Also the Buddhists, and I read a few Buddhist quotes and books and things. That was my first introductory into Buddhism, and there's quite some good books out there on Buddhism that you can read up. But they have a friend of mine actually told me, she said, Jo, one of the reasons, you know, the Buddhists think of this in a different way. They think about souls coming back to finish off their work. And something like a miscarriage and a baby that's not born just probably had a little bit more work to do before leaving this earthly realm again. And when she told me this, I kind of thought, gosh, that sounds a bit odd. But, you know, that over time, it's the thing that stuck with me, and it gave me kind of a realization and more of a meaning as to how, you know, why that could. It gave me some sort of thing to cling on to. And when you've got a reason for yourself, rather than saying, oh, why did this happen? Why did this happen to me?
Yeah.
So
Wow.
anybody else who's, you know, who's sort of struggling with miscarriage and not knowing where to go, have a look at the Buddhism books. They're really interesting to read out. They've got a whole different way of looking at things, and, you know.
Yeah,
It's
a
good
whole
to
different perspective.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow, that's wonderful, Jo. Thank you. Now, you've worked at this sanctuary spa in Covent Gardens, as well as the Portland Hospital and Harley Street. Now, I'm really interested to hear, like, how was that? I know you've worked with thousands of women, but...
Yes, I have. It was interesting. Once I finished my diploma, my year's diploma, I applied to the Portland Hospital. I applied to the Sanctuary Spa in Covent Garden, because they were looking for aromatherapists. And I got in there and worked 3 days a week. It was and so I would see probably about 12, 40, 20 clients a week probably, and I was there for, you know, good 9 months, and gave the, you know, massages and everything to them. So it was a really good experience. It was a really great way of learning how to run a clinic and how to work in a clinic and how to work with clients and how to be on time, and so it was a really great training. Plus it's an iconic building to be in, absolutely beautiful place to work. But when I was at the Sanctuary Spa, I fell pregnant again. And I thought, oh gosh, I've only just started it and I've fallen pregnant. So that was interesting. And because I'd done so much work, it was 3 years later after my miscarriage, so after the first one. So I was in a much better place. And I was very positive that this was going to work. And of course it did. I was lucky. I have a baby. She was ready to come in for full term. And so I massaged people using the aromatherapy oils while I was pregnant. And she's a very chilled baby. She was a very chilled baby. Very lovely.
Wow, that's amazing.
She's now 18, gone off to university. So
she has. Oh, Jo, that's wonderful.
Yeah. So then
we're going to stop for
okay.
Oh, sorry, Jo.
I was just going to tell you about.
Is it okay?
Portland. Do you want to stop now?
No, sorry. You carry on.
The Portland
Yes.
Hospital.
No, I'm really interested.
Yeah, it was an opportunity that came up with a fellow aromatherapist who had started her own company called AromaWare in pregnancy. So she asked me to come in and work as an aromatherapist with women antenatal pregnancy. And I also did baby massage. So I taught some baby massage there as well. So that was great. And I was able to work around around having my first baby and then going on to have my second baby. And by the way, I had a miscarriage again in between both children, which was an early one. It was an 8-week one. And so
Wow.
I had that naturally at home. It bled out. So so I've had 2 experiences of the early and the late, which is all interesting and all part of life's great experience and journey. Yeah, so I loved working at the Portland Hospital. It was great. We had posh Victoria Beckham was in there when I was there. I didn't actually get to meet her. Liz Hurley had her baby there while I was there. So yeah, there was quite a lot of celebrities love having their babies at the Portland.
Wow,
an amazing hospital. Yeah,
that must have been so wonderful for you to be there with those pregnant women and helping them along their own journey.
It was great because I had so much experience myself, having had 2 babies as well. I kind of,
Yeah.
and pregnant twice, I kind of knew what they were going through. So, yeah.
Wow. Oh, Jo, it's just such an inspirational story. Thank you for sharing that. We're just going to cut and have a break.
Sure.
And when we come back, we will be telling the viewers just some tips and methodologies to help them through their pregnancy, and dealing with the emotional side of having a miscarriage and going back into a pregnancy, which is, I think, is a very important thing for people to hear. And you've got a wonderful visualization that we'll be ending with. So thank you so much for being here. We're just going to cut to a short break, and we will see you again after the break. Bye.